The red Earth. Mars has enthralled our imagination for as long as humans have gazed skyward. This is a realm of extremes, with thin air and bone-chilling cold, and a surface devastated by dust storms. Mars, however hostile, marks our next great journey. That next big stride in human history. How then do we get there? How might this strange terrain become a place people might call home? From the first bold voyages to the prospect of large cities blossoming under Mars's sky. Today we will specifically discuss just how humans will actually occupy the planet. The reason we should colonize Mars. Why, therefore, should one leave Earth at all? It is a reasonable inquiry. Ultimately, Earth is the only planet we have known. But home is under increasing danger. Resource depletion, climate change, overpopulation, and even as we have to do all we can to save our planet, we also have to acknowledge that the future of mankind might lay elsewhere. Mars presents us a backup plan, a second opportunity. Having a self-sustaining colony on Mars would guarantee that mankind lives should a catastrophic event, such as a supervolcano, asteroid impact, or even a world pandemic, strike Earth. It is about long-term survival rather than only curiosity or adventure, but much still exists. For research, scientific discovery, and creativity, Mars offers a fresh frontier. Living on Mars presents difficulties that could inspire ideas and technologies meant to benefit us here on Earth. Mars is sort of a lab for mankind's future. The road to Mars. Difficulties of space travel. First, we have to address one of the toughest problems, getting there, before we can consider establishing colonies on Mars. Mars is not exactly around the bend. The 7 to 9 months it takes to travel from Earth to Mars depend on the planetary alignment, and whereas we have perfected sending robotic missions to Mars, transporting humans is a somewhat different matter. Among the toughest issues is radiation. High-energy particles called cosmic rays abound in space and can destroy human tissue, and raise cancer risk. We are shielded on Earth from magnetic field of our planet. Astronauts are therefore far more vulnerable to radiation in deep space. How thus may we safeguard them? Advanced shielding technologies are under development by scientists. To absorb radiation, certain spacecraft designs call for polyethylene or water. To deflect dangerous particles, there is also discussion of building magnetic fields around the spaceship, therefore duplicating the natural shield of Earth. The road will be difficult, even with these safeguards nevertheless, and that represents only the beginning. The astronauts will have entirely different difficulties once they set foot on Mars. Constructing the first human colony, shelter, hydrogen, air, water. What then transpires when we at last get on Mars? Establishing a base where astronauts may live, work, and be sheltered from the hostile surroundings will take first priority, and that surroundings is unforgiving. Mars lacks a breathable atmosphere. Temperatures range from 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Radiation bombards the surface. The interesting thing is, though, the same ground under Mars's surface, regolith, may be the secret to survival. Using Martian regolith, engineers are creating 3D printing technologies capable of building shelters. Layer by layer, printing these habitats could provide first occupants strong, radiation-proof dwellings. By using local resources, we can save having to transport as much equipment from Earth, therefore facilitating colonization. Of course, there is still the minor issue of water, even with cover. On a planet resembling a desert, how can we locate and establish a dependable water supply? Actually, Mars has water, believe it or not, frozen under its surface rather than in rivers or lakes. Large volumes of ice have been found by NASA's satellites and rovers just a few feet below ground. Future occupants could melt this ice by drilling into it and clean it for consumption. This water might be utilized to grow food and even create oxygen, therefore sustaining the crew, making oxygen on Mars and growing food. Regarding food, how might a colony on Mars be fed? Although we can't exactly pack enough food for years, importing goods from Earth would be expensive and unsustainable. On Mars, we will instead have to raise our own food. Mars's soil is poisonous nevertheless, and devoid of the nutrients required for conventional farming. How therefore can we get around that? The solution resides in hydroponics, a technique of plant growth devoid of soil. Plants in a hydroponic system grow in water enhanced with all the nutrients they require. This would enable us to grow vegetables in greenhouses, therefore supplying colonists with fresh food. And another vital step is oxygen generation, even while the colonists tend to their crops. Mars's atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide, not particularly airy, but we can turn that carbon dioxide into oxygen with tools like NASA's MOXIE experiment. Already tested on Mars, MOXIE is a prototype device that shows humans may extract oxygen straight from the thin Martian air. Colonists will be able to breathe thanks to this oxygen, which also might be utilized to produce rocket fuel for trips back to Earth. Running the colony, nuclear and solar energy. We now have to consider power after housing, food and oxygen taken care of, whether for life support systems, communication, heating, or scientific research. A colony on Mars will need enormous volumes of energy. From what then do we find that energy? A big component of the answer will be solar electricity. Mars boasts clear enough sky to let sunlight reach the surface, and long days, almost 24 hours like Earth. One can gather the sunshine and translate it into electricity using solar panels. Mars is particularly well known for its enormous dust storms, which can span weeks and obscure the sun. Hence, depending just on solar could not be sufficient. Scientists are thus also investigating nuclear power, independent of climate. Small, portable nuclear reactors might provide the colony with a dependable, consistent source of energy. Already, NASA is working on projects, including a small reactor meant for space missions called Kilopower. Mars could support a whole human community using solar and nuclear power combined. The human factor. Psychological difficulties of marinarial living. While many of the difficulties of living on Mars may be resolved with technology, one is more difficult to address: the human component. Mars is not close to Earth, quite far. Once you arrive, contacts with Earth have a 20-minute delay both directions. No real-time talks with loved ones, no fast travels home. Astronauts might suffer greatly psychologically from alone, distance, and confinement in a small environment. Already, NASA has carried studies to replicate long-term space missions. To grasp the psychological and emotional consequences of such missions, astronauts have spent months in secluded surroundings, cut off from the outer world. On Mars, mental health will be equally vital as physical health. They have discovered strong support systems from Earth as well as among themselves will be needed by colonists. Virtual reality could be useful in replicating familiar surroundings, so enabling individuals to feel linked to home. Maintaining mental health on this far-off world also depends critically on group events, consistent communication, and a strong feeling of purpose. The long-term vision, constructing a new Earth on Mars. What next transpires following the initial missions? Long-term, what will a Martian colony resemble? As more people arrive throughout time, we might observe whole cities growing on Mars. Imagine homes, labs, schools, and green parks set inside domed cities. Underground passageways might link several areas of the colony, shielding residents from the hostile surroundings. Mars might have her own government, culture, and perhaps economy. People born on Mars can grow up without knowing another place to live. They would be the first actual Martians. Human, yet molded by a planet quite apart from Earth. We might even start terraforming, changing Mars's atmosphere to resemble Earth. Far the future, perhaps hundreds or even thousands of years in the making. This is a long-term view. Mars might, however, contain rivers, lakes, and a breathable atmosphere one day, transforming a desolate planet into a bustling human second home. Finally, among the toughest problems humanity has ever encountered is colonizing Mars. It will call for decades of creativity, teamwork, and tenacity. But we are one step closer to being a multi-planet species with every step we take. From landing the first humans on the surface, to building the first base, to raising the first crops on Martian soil. The issue is not only about our colonizing of Mars, but also about the kind of future we will create there. Will Mars represent mankind's fresh start? Somewhere we can develop in ways we never would have thought possible, learn and flourish. Only time will show. One thing is clear though, our trip to Mars has started already. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like this video and wish to find more about the direction of space travel. Leave a remark below reflecting your ideas on how humans will occupy the Red Planet. I appreciate you looking at this.